Ever written is The Jordan Rules by Sam Smith, formerly at the Chicago Trib, now Bulls.com. Great NBA writer, been covering this league for a long time. He's going to join us live. There's a lot of things on the docket to talk about as we pivot into the summer league. You know, I was in Rhode Island on vacation last week, and I must have had a dozen people come up and say, what do you think about Bronny being drafted? I'm like, folks, LeBron carried the league for 20 years. You can't do him a solid with his son in a terrible draft. What did you make of Bronny getting drafted and kind of the outrage around it?
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous, obviously, given the history of all the second-round picks. I don't know. This is the first year in the NBA we haven't spent any time even covering the second round of the draft. And obviously, and I think that point was made by others, is that, look, no offense, that I'm sure eventually he'll be a decent coach, but Billy Donovan's son is coaching the team. And I'm pretty sure he's doing it instead of me because he knows Billy Donovan. So, corporate America operates that way. It's who you know. The other thing too is, look, it's sort of like him going to G League Ignite, which is out of business, I guess.
Yeah.
But he's just going to get an NBA, to start on his NBA career. He's fortunate enough who his dad is, so he gets in the NBA. His dad, yeah, I know, a little egotist, wants to be the first to play with his son. LeBron's into a lot of like that. But yeah, the attention made to it that it's some outrage and somehow damaging the Lakers and somehow, terrible parenting. It's pretty kind of laughable.
What did you make, though? One of the reasons I said Caitlin Clark should make the Olympic team is after the top 6 or 7 players, that Olympic teams have always been fairly political. It's a chemistry fit, a politic fit. The Jaylen Brown situation's interesting. It may be a Nike issue. It is odd. What did you make of it? Do Tatum and Jaylen Brown need time off? That's been suggested. He's obviously a better player than Derek White, who himself is an excellent player. But, Sam, it does feel a bit odd. The Finals MVP, there's an opening and he didn't get the call. What do you make of that?
Well, sort of the joke of it is, this is the second time Nike's keeping a star off the team since, supposedly they kept Isaiah off the team in 1992, Michael and Nike, which I don't think Nike is now. First of all, actually, I might have put Caitlin Clark on the men's team. I think she's done a heck of a job with the men's team in the mention. If that's that's the omission that I would have, she wouldn't have been double and triple team like she is in the WNBA all the time. But yeah, these things are tough. I understand Grant Hill's point was, look, we're putting together a team and some guys have to be role players and not everybody gets it and picked. And, Dominique wasn't on the 92 team and, was obviously, more prepared to do it than Bird say, but some of these things are done as a fashion show. And so this team, I don't know that LeBron or Kevin Durant should be on this team. They're the biggest names, Steph Curry. But, these guys are in their 30s, late 30s. They're athletic. They're not going to play defense. The two-way era for any of those players is kind of over with. But, they're the stars of the NBA and what they represent. And so on that level, yeah, I would have picked Brown, because as far as star talent, he was MVP of the finals, MVP of the conference finals. But, and I think they were making a point that we just want a role player here. We don't want another guy who's a star, who's a shooter. And,
yeah,
I think that's what, Grant Hill's a pretty straightforward. He's not caught up in politics that much. And, I kind of believe that Grant thought, from a team standpoint, that was sort of the best thing for us to do.
I think basketball obviously is more global. Bigs now can handle the ball and shoot. It's a different sport. It's more positionless. I think this Olympic team matches up well with the dream team. I think there's just, Chris Mullin was a great shooter. I'm not sure he'd be considered a great shooter now. How do you think the dream team and this team would match up?
Well, I think I said, the dream team was set up. There wasn't a competition. Yugoslavia had been broken up with the war. So that group with, Vlade and Drazen, they weren't, going to be all together. with Kukoc and Raja, and so there was no competition. It was a U.S. fashion show, and that's if you had gone on on ability to play, Magic and Bird wouldn't have been on the team. Bird they had basically had to talk out of retirement to stay on the team. Magic had the HIV. Played in that All-Star game in '92, but it was in no condition to play basketball.
Right.
But I still would have favored that dream team over this team, just for the reason what I just said about the age of the guard sort of thing. It's an older team, and it's a deep team. I think they'll be good and they'll win because of the depth. And you saw that against Canada the other day.
Yeah.
What gets lost about the Bulls championships in the '90s, and especially the early '90s teams, which I thought, even though '96 was the famous one, I thought '92 were better, just because Jordan and Pippen were their absolute best athletically.
Yeah.
And Jordan is the best. Pippen is maybe the best perimeter defender of all time who's on that team. Jordan's definitely the best two-guard defender of all time. And so if they were matched against this team, and you saw what Pippen did in the '91 finals to Magic.
Yeah.
He's the only guy who ever made Magic turn his back to bring the ball up court. And they'd have just swarmed James. And obviously Curry is really not a point guard. Drew Holiday. They wouldn't have been able to get the ball up court, with trapping with Michael and Scotty. That Bulls team, for all Michael's scoring, was really built on that incredible defense and pressure that they put on guys. And Phil's thing was always to take the ball out of somebody's hands, the main distributor's hands. So even though that team had so many weaknesses with Magic, with Bird, they had this, and Leighton, I don't count, and Stockton had gotten hurt and couldn't play. And then they would have, if it wasn't for the Isaiah thing, they would have replaced him with Isaiah. They didn't want him on the team after Michael and all that stuff. But they had the size with Robinson and Ewing, and they had this incredible athleticism, and also with Drexler.
Sam Smith, Bulls.com writer for Chicago, knows his stuff. Jordan Rules. Go to Amazon. You can still get it. It's an all-time great read. Sam, we got to run. Thanks for stopping by on a Friday for us.
Thanks, Colin.
You bet. It would have been interesting. Chris Mullin was a great shooter on that team, but I don't think he stacks up to the great shooters today.
Jacksonville's hopeful that their investment in Lawrence will pay off quickly, and Lawrence said he's confident the team's best football is ahead of them.
You talk about the team and where we're heading. I feel like the best days are definitely ahead of us, and I know, speaking individually as well, in my game, I feel like I'm far from playing my best football, and I know that's ahead of me. So I'm really excited about that. This team that we have this year is really good. I think it's the best team we've had since I've been there, and I'm really excited to see it all come together throughout training camp and as we get ready for the season.
I'm picking them to win their division. I'm picking Dallas not to make the playoffs. So when people say, well, he got paid, he's a better quarterback. Dallas has not necessarily been dysfunctional, but a bit delusional. Jacksonville's been dysfunctional most of the last 20 years, and he got him a playoff win. So I think they're going to be the best team. I think Houston and Jacksonville are going to carry the division this year, and people will see it. Because right now, there's a lot of what's Justin Herbert? Justin finally has a legitimate coach. Trevor's finally got a big-time roster. Both are going to flourish this year. If they're healthy, they'll both flourish.
I totally agree with Herbert. Lawrence, I really like his talent. I think everyone really likes his talent. He was kind of this Elway Marino hybrid. You mentioned number one quarterback, comes out of Clemson.
Yeah.
He's been good. He hasn't been great.
That's right.
He had a great stretch the last 9 games of 2022. Last year, he was banged up a lot.
All year.
They give him $200 million guaranteed.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why I really love him, though. Because his talent is to throw the ball down the field. And what did Jacksonville just draft? Yeah. Brian Thomas Jr., who was a monstrous vertical threat, overshadowed by Malik Neighbors at LSU. 17 touchdowns, 6'4", 210. He can flat out run. Ran a 4.3 40. Colin, I'm telling you, he is a superstar in the making. Lawrence, they're going to miss Ridley. But between him, Kirk, Ingram, Etienne, and Gabe Davis, Lawrence is going to eat this year.
Well, the other thing is Trevor Lawrence's contract is a bit like Ken Griffey in Seattle. He saved baseball.
Lawrence saved the Jags.
Yeah, the Jags were considering moving.
Yeah.
You can't. Dallas is never moving. Trevor Lawrence is the most important player in the history of Jacksonville Jaguars football. There is no second place. He saved the franchise. A couple years ago, we were talking as they were putting that team in the international games.
Yeah.
There was a lot of discussion.
London thing.
Move them to London. So his contract, a lot of it is, it's